Right, let's tell you about the Sky Bet League One weekend in which Cardiff City regained top spot, beating Mansfield by 3-0. Fish with a near post header. 1-0 Cardiff. The second goal is a real favourite of mine, if I'm honest. One of my favourite of the season so far. That's because Cardiff's 19-year-old homegrown centre-back, Dylan Lawler, spots Cardiff's 18-year-old homegrown right-back, Ronan Capaccio, making a big, deep run in behind, and he picks him out with a beauty of a pass. Capaccio, at full speed, takes a touch, looks up. Centre-backs had to come across to close him down. He makes the most of that by lifting it over his head on the bounce, and Yusuf Sadek heads in for 2-0. Now, those first two, and look, Salek's an impressive player as well, and I'll be interested to see if he has a bit of a goal-scoring run in the next month or so, whether he could be a big old target for some championship clubs in January. But it's Lawler and Capaccio that I've talked about quite a lot, partly because George and I do some work for Dragon Sports, which is a Welsh sports news outlet, and we do cover Cardiff City among other clubs within that. So I've had plenty of time to talk about these two, and I truly believe that they are quite special, that as individuals, what's happening with Lawler and Capaccio and Cardiff and Brian Barry Murphy is pretty special in lots of ways. And the fact that there's two of them and they're both part of the Cardiff City back four, it's just really cool. An 18 and a 19-year-old who had one league start between them before the season started, and that was Capaccio getting chucked to start on final day when Cardiff were already relegated. These two are now undoubtedly part of Cardiff's best 11. We have enough sample size this season to say that definitively. And that's quite something, really. This isn't just Brian Barry Murphy playing youngsters to start his tenure to, reignite the fan base and then reverting to a Perry and G or an older centre-back to replace Lawler. No, I think it's pretty clear that Cardiff's best performances have come with both of these two in the team. It's incredibly exciting for Welsh football. It's very exciting for Cardiff City. And it's just pretty cool, I think, if you're someone that's interested in young talent, because League Two, we're going to be writing about this week on NTT20.com. There's a few reasons for this, but it's pretty bare of talent at the moment, League Two. And so League One clubs looking down the pyramid for talent are going to find that there's not a huge amount available. And if you can create your own, well, that's the perfect scenario, and that's what Cardiff City have been really, really good at. Now, Capaccio's got 6 open play assists, which is the joint most in the whole EFL now, with Ryan Giles, former Cardiff loanee, of course. And that goal was just a perfect distillation, I would say, of the quality of Lawler on the ball and Capaccio's brilliance in that case, in the final third, but he's been excellent in possession and going forward throughout this season. Now, it was also a big game for another Cardiff youngster in Cian Ashford. And I'll explain why. Ruben Colwill picked up an injury a weekend before this one, and he's going to be out for a couple of months. And so there's quite literally more minutes to go around, but there's quite a few players vying for those minutes. I talked about who might replace Colwill playing number 10, and actually I think it's probably either Callum Robinson, who started here in more of a front two with Salek, or more of a goal-scoring option than Colwill, but it could be Chris Willock, who I think is probably the most similar player to Ruben Colwill, probably in the whole division, and so quite a good replacement for Colwill if Barry Murphy decides to go down that route. But it does mean there are more minutes to go around probably, and Ashford and Kellyman, the loanee, and Davis as well. There's a chance for one of those, realistically, rather than 2 or 3, to really seize the moment. Kellyman is a really talented young player with a great youth career and on loan from a big club. But Ashford took his chance here, scored the third goal, scored it really nicely. And I got to shout out Dan, who's a Cardiff fan, that tweeted me about Ashford before the game. And I said, what do you like about him? What could he improve on? He said he scored bags at youth more centrally at youth level. So I'm keen to see him there again. Tendency to cut back inside when out wide, but offers lots of support to his fullback. He scores different goals, long ranges, off through balls, maybe needs to add tap-ins. Well, for this one, Ashford got central and Ashford scored what was a simple finish, a tap-in, and took it pretty well. So a big win for Cardiff. They go back top. I noticed that 7 of their next 10 games are at home, including 2 big ones in the Cup. Well, Chelsea at home in the Cup, big one. Wimbledon at home in the knockout round of the Virtue Trophy, less big, but a real chance to establish themselves both in the league and potentially have some Cup glory as well over the next month or two. And, given the way this league is, if they do have a really strong next 6 weeks, Cardiff should be at the top of the table and maybe with a decent cushion to third come January, and then it'd be interesting to see how they approach things. Not too upset with Mansfield here. Another injury crisis, as per Sam, Stags fan on NTT20 squad. Missing in that game were Roberts, Hendry, Maris, Oates, Dickov, Gardner, Bolton. 7 of their 11 attacking players in the squad, plus Sweeney, the defender, as well. Big issues for Nigel Clough. So probably a tough period incoming over the next few weeks for Mansfield. But Cardiff, headline of the pod, top of the table. Lovely stuff.
Easy.
A couple of other home wins near the top of League One.
Yeah, 2-1, 1-0 wins of significance, basically due to their league positions of the teams that won them and kind of impacting those towards the bottom end, but both probably expected. Bradford beat Exeter 1-0. Now, this looked, there are games, we must do the same thing, where there are games where you just think, what it's going to look like when you see the result. And 1-0 Bradford, first half set piece goal from Wright, you're like, yeah, fine. They went ahead, they had a few chances to make it 2-0, and that was it.
Yeah.
Nope. Exeter, probably the better side from 1-0. Had loads of opportunities to get back into the game. Maybe the best forwarding to Wareham after Ibu Toure sold Walker short a back pass. Wareham raced onto it but wasn't able to finish. But Exeter had loads of opportunities throughout the second half, and Bradford were kind of really living on the edge. They'll be very frustrated that the away team didn't get, or Exeter will be frustrated they weren't able to get anything out of the game. But
probably
I think
their best away performance of the season.
I think so. But a pretty significant week for Bradford, because their form had really started to tail. We saw them get dumped out of the FA Cup by lowly Cheltenham right in the middle of a winless run in the league that dated back to the 27th of September, where they beat Blackpool at home. But a draw away at Bolton, that's obviously a very good draw, and then a win at home to Exeter. 4 points from those two games is a really good haul, and it keeps them, they're currently third and only behind Stevenage and second on goal difference. So it's a measure of the league, and it's the same in League Two, where you can go on these really kind of poor runs of form, but it doesn't seem to impact your league position too much because everyone else is, no one's really racking up loads of PPG. So not the best performance from Bradford, but a really significant win. It was much more straightforward for Lincoln, who beat Port Vale 1-0 with a really nice finish from Hackett from just the edge of the area. Port Vale were poor here. They look a shadow of the team that we saw earlier in the season. The performances have really, really slid down to the level of the results. I would maintain that earlier on in the campaign, they weren't as bad a team as their points tally. I think now they are rooted to the bottom of League One, and they have to be seen as one of the worst teams in League One. Still no news coming out about Darren Moore. They're a very patient football club to a fault. Some fans would argue. There were times last season where Port Vale retained the faith in Darren Moore in League Two, and that resulted in him getting them promoted out of the league. So, they would say that their patience and their willingness to trust in a man who's provided for them in the past is a good thing. But with every game that goes by, with every performance that dips, it's getting to the stage where you feel like something has to change quite soon, because otherwise they're going to sink without a trace. Exeter's certainly the ones that came away with a better performance out of the two losers in these games. Lincoln, this was a very Scabala Lincoln win, winning 1-0, going ahead early, only conceding 5 shots in the whole game and making it seem very simple.
4-0 was the scoreline at Burton, but not for Burton. Burton 0, Leyton Orient 4, solo brilliance from Aaron Connolly. And I feel like I'm saying that with increasing regularity. Got the ball on the left-hand side, beat his man down to the byline, cut it back in and forced it in the near post. Solo brilliance, Aaron Connolly for 2-0. More brilliant wing play down the left-hand side, this time across. Very nicely guided in off the head of Dom Ballard. Now, can't really ignore the fact that Connolly, when he's playing like this, off the left of the attack, socks rolled down, slightly shaggy hair, looks a bit like Kvaratskhelia.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Well, watch the highlights. Tell me if he looks like Kvaratskhelia. He does.
Okay.
Well, don't tell me. I'll tell you. He does.
Right.
And
I
think
it's facially or in terms of playing style.
No, playing style.
Right.
Footballistically.
Okay.
Not facially.
I was going to say you might get a knock at the door from Aaron, I think, if you say that.
What about Kavicha?
Aaron's a lovely looking guy.
Who would I want a knock on the door from less out of Kvaratskhelia and Aaron Connolly?
Both would be a surprise.
Pass. Now, that inspired Abdoulaye, who hasn't come up with as many moments of brilliance as maybe Orient would have liked since signing. But in this instance, 25 yards out, top bin, 3-0. Cheers. Then, Charlie Wellens got on the ball. Similar spot, 25 yards out. This time he went bottom left, low and hard instead of top right. Same result, 4-0. A really excellent away performance from an Orient side who, away from home this season, have been poor. Had conceded 20 goals in 8 away games, more than, 2.5 a game, keeping a clean sheet here fairly comfortably. And as we know they can, cutting loose. This is a team with a very, very high ceiling. Excellent attack, the league's top scorers now. out there on their own. 1 goal more than Cardiff City, but they have had a pretty low floor as well, with the second most goals conceded this season. So because they have Wellens in charge, more so than most managers, there's that confidence that he can and will just get things going. And this could be the first sign. Well, actually, maybe we've had a couple of false dawns already. This could be the true sign of that. And a really, really impressive 4-0 away win. I mean, they weren't the only team to smash someone away from home, George. We had 2 3-0 away wins as well. One of them, Shoe Army, down in Devon. 7 wins in their last 13 in the league for Kevin Nolan's side.
Yeah, and a great run. This was as game of 2 half year as any game I've ever seen. In his post-match press conference, Tom Cleverley said, if you told me at halftime we'd lose this game 3-0, I wouldn't have believed you. They didn't even have a shot on target. Tom, that is correct.
Okay.
But they didn't have a shot, full stop,
right,
in the first half. And they've lost the game 3-0. A few really good opportunities for Argyle during the first half. They were well on top. It was a pretty good performance from them. Barney Mumba maybe missing the best of those, just firing wide when kind of 1-1 with the keeper. But they were well on top and looked by far the better team. And then Tom Eaves just manages to flick a header, looping into the far corners, make it 1-0. And as Cleverly pointed out in his post-match, because Argyle are struggling so much, because they're not used to winning, everything in that moment just absolutely went to pot.
Crumble.
We had Laurent Tolai being sent off for seemingly an elbow, which the cameras didn't catch, but Cleverly had no complaints and basically admitted that Tolai had lost his head and that during the first half, Northampton had been trying to taunt him, and they've spoken about it at half-time. They've spoken about how he had to keep his head and then he didn't. It was compounded by the fact that Tolai, in his frustration, tried to boot a ball. I'm talking a lot about these balls that are on cones at the moment in these pods. Yeah. Tried to boot one of those balls that was on a cone, and because it was a slick, greasy surface, just totally wiped out as he did it, which when he'd been sent off, and the away fans are watching you isn't the best thing to do. And then just a couple of set-piece goals, or just crosses in the box that were diverted home from Cobblers to make it 3-0. And I do feel like Cobblers are one of these teams that we haven't spoken about that much from a positive perspective, because they started the season not great, and we were like, yeah, that was to be expected after their really, their struggles to recruit effectively over the course of the summer. And then they started putting in better performances and getting some wins, and you're like, yeah, that's what teams do, but they'll probably regress. But as you say now, the form is good, and they're bang mid-table. Nolan is clearly turned them into a far better team than the one that he inherited a year or so ago. And they've got a bit of quality going forward that's needed, and resolute and solid at the back. List with the second goal and Willis with the third. So, it was a first half performance that basically didn't exist from Cobblers. But in the second half, they were very good and therefore deserving of the 3-0 win. I don't know what Argyle do now, but 3-0 home defeats to Northampton makes the shadow of Derek Adams standing in the corner of Home Park loom pretty large. I just can't imagine it's going to be long until he's taking charge of first team affairs. I just can't imagine the conversation as and when they make the decision to part company with Tom Cleverley. And it's like, right, we need to find a new manager. Derek, who do you think we should get? He's not going to be like, yeah, me actually. So
that's what Mark Bowen did at Reading that one time.
Yeah.
You want? I'm the sporting director. What? And we need a new manager. Have you heard of Mark Bowen?
Yeah, and he'd never managed before.
Whereas Derek,
promotions.
Boy, has he managed.
Yes.
The Grim Reaper is what you're suggesting there for Tom Cleverley. Yeah, Blackpool lost 3-0 at home to Reading. Not great times at Blackpool either. We'll get into them. But let me start on the positives. That's Reading. Attacking players just looking so much more confident in this game. That's what really stood out to me. I haven't seen Kiriwa looking this good on the left of Reading's attack. Kamari Doyle, someone that I've seen be excellent at this level before on loan last season, but hasn't yet done it really consistently for Reading. But I think if he gets a run of games in the number 10 role, and that's what Liam Richardson looks like he's going to give him, then he will come to the fore, so to speak. So that combination was good for the first goal. Kiriwa then won a penalty that was scored by Wing, and the 3-0 goal. Kiriwa again from range saved. There were like 3 rebound chances. Finally, one was put in by Randell Williams, who probably had his first big game in a Reading shirt as well. And these individuals, they just weren't standing out at all previously in this campaign. Jack Marriott had that goal scoring burst of I think 5 in 5, but outside of that, we really needed Reading's attacking players to start coming to the fore. And you've got Big Kelvin there, who's continuing to start up top, continuing to have chances and show, to my eyes, some positive signs, but also he's just on such a drought in front of goal. And I'd love to see his teammates return to form and confidence kind of rub off on him, because then I think we could be talking about a Reading side that could be scoring 3 goals more regularly as they did here. For Blackpool, it's just a terrible combination of missing good chances when they're having good spells, and they did at 0-0, and then giving up tons of chances pretty consistently throughout the game, and those were taken. So Ian Ebbett, well, he's hardly waved a magic wand, has he? They won his first 2 games in charge, and we made the point that they did so facing something like 55 shots and 23 on target across 2 games. He hadn't sorted the defence. He still hasn't sorted the defence. If he doesn't sort the defence, Blackpool very possibly, maybe even probably, if he doesn't sort the defence, will be a League 2 team next season, which would be hard to get your head around a couple of years ago. But there we are. Donny, finally, George, winning. And doing so in the Grant McCann derby at home to Peterborough.
Yes. The Grant McCann derby, where it would have been quite funny if a Peterborough win had cost Grant McCann his job.
That wouldn't have been funny at all. It would have been
horrible.
horrible.
So not for him. Ironic? Is that ironic?
Yeah.
I never really know these days. You know how the Alanis Morissette song is like, none of it's ironic.
Yeah.
That's all the it's just annoying.
Did she do that on purpose?
Should be called Isn't It Annoying?
Was it ironic that none of her examples of irony were actually ironic? Or was she... it was the irony that she didn't understand it?
I think that she famously, wrote the song in like 10 minutes. Which might explain it. She just hadn't really thought about it properly. Sometimes you do stuff and you think back and you're like, oh, no, that was stupid. Which, as people can tell, given we do this podcast unscripted, happens quite a lot. What game was it? Yes, it wouldn't have been funny at all, and it probably wouldn't have happened because he's doing an okay job there. Grant McCann getting a win that Doncaster had deserved, because their recent performances has certainly been a lot better than those performances earlier on in the season after such a good start, which saw them start falling down the leagues. It's been a pretty frustrating couple of games for Peterborough. I think posh fans would have left the 3-0 win over Stockport just over a week or so ago, feeling very positive about the rest of the season. But a 1-0 defeat at home to Stevenage, where they really struggled to test Alex Raval's side. Then a 2-1 loss away at Doncaster. Both goals from Jordan Gibson, both down the left channel, both nutmegging keeper Alex Bass, which will be quite frustrating for him. I'd have thought, to feel the ball whiz between his legs on 2 separate occasions. Donny would 2-0 up within 25 minutes or so. Loved Harry Leonard's goal. 5 minutes into the second half, kind of receives it just outside the area. I think it was Jimmy J. Morgan who'd kind of run inside, looked like he was going to shoot, and just laid it off to Leonard instead. Who'd just come off the bench at half time, and he somehow kind of, with his back to goal, swiveled and hit it into the far corner from just outside the area. Like a brilliant finish. He's obviously got a lot of quality, and it feels like if Bosch can keep him fit, which has been the issue for a long time at Blackburn, they've got themselves a real player there. But they didn't trouble Donny loads in the after that. Billy Sharp had a really good opportunity 1-on-1 where Bass came off his line early, and I think kind of surprised Sharp, who then passed the ball wide, which is rare for him from those kind of opportunities. So Donny saw it out. Big win for them. For Peterborough and Luke Williams, a reminder that a couple of good results, a couple of good performances straight away doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to go ahead and win every game from then on. 3
swallows don't make a summer, let alone 1. Well, George, the League One weekend was an absolute cabinet, full of draws. Huddersfield 3, Wimbledon 3 was probably the most entertaining of them.
Yeah, that hurt me. Anyway, Huddersfield, Wimbledon,
award-nominated wordplay.
Possibly,
if you're interested.
Possibly, we had to write a bio for ourselves, and I read your bio recently for certain purposes, and you wrote a big fan of wordplay.
I like it.
It's nice that that's how you define yourself.
Yeah.
Yourself.
I think you said you like, I don't know, probabilities or something.
Yeah. Nuanced football coverage, I think is what I said.
God. You are a big old nuance, aren't you?
Wow. That's
one big nuance.
A bit much. A bit below the belt.
Podcast nuance. It's the draws, mate. It's
Football
Huddersfield,
nuance.
Wimbledon.
Yeah, sorry, hi. This was the game. I can't really work Huddersfield out. You know how you've spoken a lot about teams they're not a serious team.
Yeah.
You said a lot about Crawley, who I thought were becoming a serious team, and then the craziness happened on Saturday.
No.
And it feels like that at the moment with Huddersfield, where at times they look so good, but they just can't seem to knit it together for 90 minutes. And then when they do, they can't seem to reproduce it again. They were well on top in the first half before Marcus Brown scored the opener against a run of play after a nice bit of work. I don't know why Steve Seddon popped up on the right-hand side. It must have been a counter-attack from a corner where I didn't see the clip for long enough. But Seddon squared it to Brown, who kind of checked his run and sat back and was found by the pullback and finished well. Castledine carried on his brilliant run of form and good goal-scoring streak with a nice finish just after half-time, and that was then straight up the other end. Danny Orsi profited and tapped home a rebound to make it 2-1 to AFC Wimbledon. Wiles then made it 2-2. Ryan Johnson from a set piece made it 3-2 to Dons before Alfie May squeezed home to, jubilant scenes, but it's an equaliser to draw 3-3 at home to an AFC Wimbledon side who started the season well, but been really out of form recently. So it's kind of one of those games where no one comes away that happy. Lee Grant will definitely think there was a lot in their performance to make him very happy, and he'll think they should have won the game, and they probably should. Johnny Jackson will be really frustrated that they squandered 3 leads, 1-0, 2-1 and 3-2. Game notable for me because we had 3 Prime Ministers scoring in Brown, May and Johnson, and Castledine kind of nearly there for Heseltine, so a bit of a combo there. Someone who tweeted me that, I've got the receipts. I did say it to Ali before he tweeted me, so I didn't just steal that. But a 3-3 of much, intrigue and excitement, but maybe doesn't do a great deal for either side.
4 more draws. Stockport 1, Barnsley 1. Really poor kick from Hinchliffe in the first half was punished. Cleary finding Yoganathan, who slid in for 1-0. But Stockport in the second half really came on strong. Very clearly determined not to make it 3 defeats in a row and meet the wrath of Dave Challoner. And it was a sweet strike from Callum Connolly to equalise. Same scoreline at Luton against Bolton. Some statuesque defending by Luton. Saw Dempsey get the ball and score quite nicely in the first half. Quite obvious penalty not given, certainly to my eyes, when I thought Yates was taken down in the box. No matter, they got a helping hand in the end in the second half when Xavier Simmons with a strong tackle on Kodjua that earned him a second yellow card. And Luton's pressure paid off in the end. They got there in the end. Shaden Morris with a lovely little burst and a cross. It fell to Kodjua, who slammed in to equalise. And Rotherham won, Wycombe won. Well, Rotherham will never lose again. We made that point last week, and they didn't here. They came from behind, 1-0 down to Wycombe, where Fred Onyedinma was a menace, as always, down the right-hand side, and his cross bounced up for Mullins to head home really nicely from the number 10 spot. And then a big Rotherham spell, looking bright but not scoring, having one of those spells where they look really encouraging. But that fizzled. There were a couple of Wycombe counter-attacks, dangerous ones as well. Again, chances not taken, lead not extended, and they paid for it. Martha did some jinking and crossed for Kean Spence to finish very nicely. He's doing well in the last few weeks for Rotherham, which is pleasing to see a League 2 player at Barrow, who I really liked a lot. So 1-1, Rotherham, Wycombe, and Wigan 0, Stevenage 0. By contrast, was a match that happened.